Hi everyone, it's Matilda and Veronica here again with you today. And today I'm going to teach Veronica, this is the Sidekick series, front back.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to start with the setup. It's kind of really important. I always use the back edge of my mat as kind of like the line to follow. So you want to get your shoulder girdle and your pelvic girdle kind of on the back edge of the mat. Watch you're not going into a tuck. So you'll see when you go into a tuck, when you're kind of pushing your back and you can feel like the kind of quads are kind of pushing forward. So I kind of in my mind's eye imagine that my sits bones are like if I had lights out of my sits bones, they're going to keep the same line as the back edge of the mat. So they're kind of behind you a little bit more than perhaps you think, particularly if you tend to be a little bit more of a tucker. The hand is at the base of your skull on the side, kind of behind your ear. Now, if this is too challenging, you could always lay the arm down and even put a pillow under your head, okay? Yeah. But if you could pick it up, that would be great. The other hand is out in front of you. Okay, so you're kind of lined up this way. The legs are kind of out in front of you. I'm not going to tell you where to put them. I'm going to say slightly in front of you where you're comfortable. If they're too far forward, it's kind of weird because you kind of feel like you might tip back. And you could be a little bit more in line if you want to, but it's slightly in front. Okay, so you're going to take the top leg up to basically hip height. You don't want the leg to rise up higher. You're going to soften the knee a little bit. Just make sure you don't hyperextend. And then when you're ready, you're going to inhale to kick the leg forward and maybe a little bit further. And then you exhale to sweep the leg back behind you. So you flex, inhale, exhale, point, and sweep back. Flex the foot, kick, and further, exhale back and further. There we go. So the inhale to come forward, you kick, and you try to bring the leg a little bit more further without a bounce in the leg. And then when it sweeps back behind you, you're reaching the hip out, getting the leg back behind you, and then you can bring that all the way back in again. I'm going to speak about the spine a little bit because this is a pretty major piece that feels really delicious. When you're first teaching this exercise, it's really important to maybe keep it a little bit smaller so that people start to understand how the femur bone moves in the hip joint without distorting the spine so much, because it's quite the synchronicity of it is not always so easy. So maybe in the beginning the leg comes up and you can just kick and then swing back. So there's not a lot that happens in the spine. You're really just trying to feel, oh, there's my femur bone rotating in my hip joint. It kicks forward and it sweeps back. If you look at the degree of angle in which the leg can kick forward and back without affecting the spine, obviously forward a little bit more, it can actually come past a 90 depending on your flexibility. So maybe keep it to around a 90 to just to not affect the pelvis or spine, to really get a sense of the movement. Behind you, I think it's about 30 degrees. So just keep it within that range. Really start to feel where the movement comes from. It doesn't come from the pelvis. It's a rotation. It's a movement of the leg and the hip joint. Yeah?
Can I add something?
Yeah.
So you're making me do this, and I'm realizing, and you might be saying this later on, but I'm realizing how much I'm not allowing the leg to move before I move the spine. So now I feel my hamstring stretch more, right?
Nice. Okay.
So I've been cheating. I'm a cheater. I've been like avoiding the stretch and going right to flexion. So I would definitely go back to this modification.
So you just keep it, because there's all of these pieces that get learned along the way, instead of like, oh, this is the exercise. We always go to our end range instead of finding our way to the end range. Okay. So you start with that. Really get a feel for, and the deep six are going to be happy because their job is to draw the femur bone into the hip joint, to stabilize the femur bone in the hip joint. What if it's constantly being stabilized even though you're flexing and extending the hip joint? We're really just maintaining, we're keeping it low. We're just flexing and extending the hip joint before we work our way up through the spine. Then once we feel like, I think I got that, that feels really good, then it kind of goes like this.